But it's got to be said. Exactly what Alex said is, you know what? The fact is, Outland and Lich King are going to be a little broken for a while. Yeah. It's something we thought a lot about when we were planning Cataclysm. And the simple fact is, at a production level, you really can only account for so much. I mean, these guys have been breaking their backs on questing out, the classic world, Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms. We have every intention of not letting this world we care a lot about be broken for years and years. But we're still trying to figure out how we're going to... It's like, do you guys want another really thrilling expansion, or do you want us to fix Outland? Because in terms of like quest design, it's kind of the same amount of work, and we're trying to bang these expansion sets out, before you all have, grandchildren and stuff. I guess you could play with your grandkids though, which is nice. Let me ask you this. So 1,000 to 3,000,
yeah, it's more like 3,500.
Yeah. So I wanted to get Alex's approval. In Wrath of the Lich King, these guys built about 1,000 quests. That's a lot of work. And you can feel it in that game. Good Lord, that expansion set was badass, in my humble opinion. For Cataclysm, and consider there's the 80, 85, and there's the 1 to 60, 3,500 quests. I mean, guys, it was an impossible job, and these guys, just dominated this thing. So keep that in mind, right? We do not want Outland and Northrend to feel broken or phased out of the flow of time and real-time events. But it is a mammoth undertaking. So we will get to it. I know it will probably be frustrating for many of you, especially the role players. Like, what in the world, Blizzard? But we are going to get to it. Please be patient with us.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
I need you to go back 2 years to Outland.
Okay.
Hi, so I was wondering about the Council of Tirisfal, particularly Medan, what's going on with them, and whether you ever intend to implement them in game, as important characters, because I think they're a pretty important sort of section of Azeroth.
Maybe Medan will bring Alaria and Turalian back.
In Stromgarde.
In Stromgarde, with Atiesh. 2 years ago. So yeah, the idea of birthing a new Council of Tirisfal and a new Guardian and all that stuff, we had that hook for many years. It was a really broad idea, wow, this will be a cool, earth-shattering idea. And as we started to build that out for the comic book, it took the shape that it took. But we're still kind of chewing on what is the best way to leverage that content, right? Potentially Medan is a pretty cool character, but it just hasn't come up yet in terms of post-Cataclysm. We have certainly been discussing a number of possible directions for whatever the next expansion is, but that has not factored in yet, but I'm sure come Monday morning we will be talking about it.
Hi. Will we ever see a redemption or resurrecting of Illidan Stormrage as a character with Malfurion and that whole storyline?
Boy, do I want to do that. I think that'd be badass. I don't think anyone at all has even suggested it or talked about it. Not to my knowledge. But I love that shit. I'm a sucker for a good redemption story, so... StarCraft. Except for Arthas, though. You gotta pay, brother. You're going down.
Hi there. In Burning Crusade, Illidan didn't seem very involved in a lot of the quests directly, but in Wrath, you saw Arthas everywhere. How are you approaching Cataclysm with Deathwing?
A little in between both. I think in Wrath we may have kind of cartooned Arthas out to some degree, and we're aware of it. We know this. Him showing up at the right times was awesome and made a powerful statement, but it was excessive at times. So with Deathwing, and he's a different animal, literally, he's a dragon. So it's a little harder to have him show up and not just kill you. So we're a little more careful, though when you do see Deathwing in Cataclysm, he'll kill you. So 99% of the time.
His name ain't Social Wing.
All right, so I'm just wondering if you could give any spoilers or theories about the possible location or even a name of the next Old God for its expansion, and maybe even elaborate a little upon the theory that if all the old gods are kind of dealt with, then Azeroth will kind of be doomed. Because, I mean, we've dropped Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron, and we're not really seeing much doomsday effect besides Cataclysm, but that's really with Deathwing.
Or is it? You haven't seen who signs Deathwing's paychecks yet. Let me see if I get that. So there are two questions. One is, will it give you spoilers on the next expansion set? No. No. The second part was, I'm sorry, brother, was the suggestion that as we punk down old gods, is there some greater calamity or price to pay?
Now, I was asking if you had any theory or idea of what a name for the next old god would be, and maybe elaborate a little upon, because, I mean, a while ago you kind of suggested the theory that if the old gods were dealt with, that kind of this doomsday and Azeroth kind of ceased to be because of some catastrophic event, but so far with 2 down, we're not really seeing much calamity happening.
Have you played any Cataclysm?
You know, like where the world blows up? Because of the old gods?
Yeah, because of the old gods.
Right. So, have we publicly announced the?
I don't. You might, if you're astute enough, see his name or its name uttered in a few places in Cataclysm, but it's out there.
You want to know what it is?
Oh, N'Zoth?
Yes. I was asking your permission.
Oh, I thought you
Get in trouble by rolling it out.
No, let's roll.
The third old god is N'Zoth. And we've suggested, I think directly, that he was the critter responsible for the spark of the Emerald Nightmare. And he's got all sorts of other weird shit going on, so he's a real problem.
Well, damn, he took my question. But I gotta back up. We've seen over the years a lot of the overarching evils and dangers that the heroes had to confront be taken down, and they've slowly been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Are there plans to take out some of the more benevolent kind of, well, challenges? We've seen 2 of the dragons go down, and we've proven that they're not infallible. Would one day we take down Alexstrasza?
All right, let me answer it this way. She's the aspect of life, man. Come on, can you really punk her down for long? A careful way to answer that question is, over the course of Cataclysm, obviously Deathwing's the bad guy, you know, and in the subsequent patches, similar to how Wrath of the Lich King worked, you know, the final patch is Fall of the Lich King, you know, ultimately when we develop the final combat with Deathwing and put him down, figured there's really good money on the fact that the family is going to have to get involved, right? The aspects, it will be their, let's say, greatest and most terrible hour. They will perform the function for which they were created all those eons ago. So as far as like, you know, who's getting killed or who isn't or whatever, it's probably healthy to let that breathe at this point, but know that we love these characters. We would not arbitrarily off them at all. And again, I'm not suggesting that they're going to die at all. But figure, Deathwing is so gnarly, right? How do you defeat something that is undefeatable, right? Can he be defeated by any martial means? It's a very good question. How will the family and Thrall pull this off? Oh, I just have to say it. Damn it. So you know how Thrall's a shaman? Yes, we do. So what aspect is missing from the family? Okay, guys, it's the big black dragon, Earth. Earth would be correct. Neltharian's out, right? The family's been broken for eons. Well, all right, not eons. 10,000 years, the family has been broken. And what are the 5 aspects are you missing? You are missing Earth. So I'm just saying, perhaps that's a way our boy Thrall can distinguish himself down the line in helping to bring the family back together for the big win. Just saying.
Thank you very much.
My name's Althea from Big Crits, and I have a question concerning the book lore and how it pertains to Cataclysm. In the book Storm Range, some serious stuff happens, which, in my personal opinion, is a little bit more intense than what happens in Cataclysm. And I was wondering, is everyone just going to forget what happened to them after the Cataclysm, and what's the plans concerning that? With the nightmare taking over the world, and pretty much keeping everyone in eternal nightmare until the deed was done. I don't want to give spoilers. That's why I'm being kind of vague.
So the question would be, do we reference the events of the novel Storm Rage broadly in Cataclysm? Is that the question?
Specifically broadly, like I personally wouldn't like if it was touched on, or I was like, oh, this happened. And I understand there's some stuff that Malfurion does to take out some of the people responsible for what happened, but like, it happened to everybody. Like, everybody was affected. I just want to know, is it going to be brought up a lot?
There are things in our literature that are harder to pull off than others. That's one of them. Especially in an expansion when you're dealing with breaking the world, things can get muddled. So it's dealt with delicately in Cataclysm, but yeah, we don't hit you over the head with it, for sure.
And it's, to some degree, to follow up to that, do you think all these battle-hardened cats are going to sit and whine about a bad dream when there's molten magma spewing up under their feet? You know, it's kind of an issue of priorities, right?
Yeah, that's what everyone. That's what everyone I've ever brought that up to told me. It's like, oh, the Cataclysm. You know, screw whatever happened with the Nightmare. That this shit's real.
No, I mean it's continuity. The Nightmare totally happened, but in terms of prioritization of like rewriting all the NPC quests, like it's important to err on the side of the big giant game rather than the super cool but lesser read novel. I mean lesser read relative to 12 point something million and the couple 100,000 that bought that. No disparaging remark whatsoever.
Awesome. Thank you for hearing me out.
Right on, man.
Sure.